Power rarely announces itself when it is most effective. It doesn't raise its voice or seek validation. It simply moves, quietly and decisively, leaving consequences behind it. Prince William's most consequential action was not a public statement, a confrontation, or an emotional response. It was a recalibration, a shift in perspective that changed how he viewed not just his brother, but the role he himself is destined to occupy. For a long time, the public framed the conflict surrounding Prince Harry as a family fracture, a falling out between brothers, hurt feelings, miscommunication, emotional distance. But that framing misses the deeper reality. What changed was not William's emotions. It was his lens. At a certain point, he stopped evaluating the situation as a son or sibling and began analyzing it as a future monarch responsible for protecting an institution that predates all of them. That moment matters because monarchies do not operate on forgiveness or sentiment. They operate on continuity, survival, stability. And once someone is perceived as a destabilizing force, the rules change completely. William did not arrive at this decision suddenly. There was no single event, no dramatic trigger. Instead, there was accumulation, repeated public disclosures, ongoing commentary, commercial partnerships built on royal association without royal obligation, a pattern of exposure that did not resolve itself with time, but intensified. From an institutional standpoint, that pattern signaled risk, not emotional discomfort, but structural vulnerability. Anger would have been easier. Anger creates drama. Anger invites reaction. Anger allows people to frame themselves as victims. William avoided all of that by doing something far more effective. He removed emotion from the equation entirely. At some point, Harry ceased to be evaluated as a younger brother struggling with his role and became assessed as an unresolved variable within a tightly controlled system. And institutions do not tolerate unresolved variables. They close them. This is where the story shifts from personal to procedural. When William approached his father, he did not present grievances. He did not argue about fairness. He did not ask for reconciliation or compromise. He presented a problem statement, a clear outline of ongoing exposure, an explanation of why the existing arrangement, neither fully inside nor fully outside the royal structure, was unsustainable. That in-between status had created confusion for the public and opportunity for exploitation. Harry and Meghan were not working royals, yet they retained titles. They were not bound by duty, yet they benefited from association. They did not represent the crown, yet their proximity to it fueled media attention, influence, and commercial value. From William's perspective, this ambiguity was not kindness. It was negligence. Institutions survive by clarity. When boundaries blur, accountability dissolves. And when accountability dissolves, authority weakens. William recognized that the monarchy could not continue to absorb reputational impact while offering no structural control in return. So the solution was not punishment, it was definition. No more half measures, no more selective engagement, no more symbolic status detached from service. Either one operates within the system, subject to its constraints, or one exits it entirely. Once that line is drawn, there is no emotional appeal that can override it. This approach is what makes William's move so final. There's nothing to argue against, no action to protest, no public decision to dramatize. The system simply corrects itself. Titles within the monarchy are not sentimental honors. They are operational designations. They grant legitimacy, access, and perceived authority. Removing them does not humiliate, it neutralizes. It doesn't attack identity emotionally, it dismantles it structurally. This is where many misunderstand the nature of the consequence. Losing a title does not create outrage. It creates absence. Invitations stop arriving. Doors no longer open automatically. Media interest shifts. Influence erodes. Not because anyone is targeted, but because the institutional backing that created gravity no longer exists. William understood this distinction deeply. He did not need to destroy, he only needed to withdraw recognition. But he did not stop at the present moment. He looked ahead. Institutions think generationally. Problems that remain unresolved do not disappear, they replicate. Titles passed to children create future claims, future leverage, future negotiations that the system must manage indefinitely. William recognized that granting status without obligation today creates instability tomorrow. So the line was drawn before it could extend. No automatic inheritance of royal designation, no future ambiguity, no next generation positioned to revive the same unresolved tension. This was not cruelty, it was prevention. Once a title exists, it cannot be ignored. It demands attention, it creates expectation, it attracts entitlement. William chose to prevent that cycle entirely, not with noise, but with omission. What followed was not spectacle, but paperwork. Records adjusted, official listings updated, institutional language refined, and the world moved on. That is how power functions at its highest level. It does not announce victory, it simply reshapes reality until opposition no longer exists within the framework. People expected confrontation, they expected statements, they expected a final exchange. But systems do not debate individuals, they outlast them. William learned this lesson by observing history. He saw what patience without boundaries produces: prolonged scandal, eroded credibility, and public fatigue. Waiting does not heal institutions, it exposes them. Time does not dilute risk, it compounds it when left unmanaged. So William made a decision earlier generations avoided. He chose resolution over sentiment, structure over softness, finality over delay. Not to win, not to punish, but to protect continuity. That is the difference between a brother and a future king. What makes William's decision so unsettling is how quietly it unfolds. There is no public rupture, no dramatic confrontation for people to react to. Instead, the change reveals itself slowly, through absence. That silence is deliberate. Public conflict creates sympathy and competing narratives. William avoided that entirely by letting the system move forward without explanation. Once institutional recognition is withdrawn, everything built on it weakens naturally. Influence fades, partnerships lose weight, public attention cools, not out of punishment, but because the authority that sustained relevance is no longer present. There is no villain, no battle, only a structure that has shifted and left someone outside it. This approach wasn't invented, it was learned. For decades, the monarchy tried patience, hoping controversy would fade. Each time, delay only deepened the damage. William absorbed that lesson early. Kindness without boundaries erodes credibility. Institutions survive through clarity, not accommodation. By the time action was taken, the issue was no longer personal, it was preventative. The goal was not to respond to past behavior, but to stop future repetition. That is why reconciliation narratives no longer hold. Reconciliation requires shared structure. That structure no longer exists. This is what makes the outcome final. There is no role waiting, no quiet path back. The system has been redesigned to function without those who no longer align with it. Exclusion, not conflict, ends the relationship. The monarchy William is shaping is smaller, tighter, and deliberate. It doesn't rely on popularity or personality, it relies on definition. And when that reality settles, there is no outrage, only the understanding that power didn't need to fight, it simply continued forward.